He's putting a lot on Leyland, but that's a good segue into our next topic, because yesterday Mike Ilitch comes out and there was some rumblings, some grumblings, and it was coming from the studio last week about, the eye candy that is Gene Lamont, like I said, and Jim Leyland, the Marlboro man, whether this coaching staff would be intact, whether this front office would be intact for this season. Mike Ilitch, well, he gave the answer to that, and he said yes on both accounts. He said he's bringing back Dombrowski, bringing back Leyland. This season's been disappointing, he said, but he still believes in the direction this team is headed. So, Bart, you obviously heard this news for the first time by your reactions with your eyes right there. Tell me what you think about that. Jim Leyland, of course, has been in Detroit now for a couple of years, took this team to a World Series, but is receiving a lot of criticism from me and Noah specifically in the past couple weeks.
I can see that. You guys are...
What do you think about them bringing back Leyland and Dombrowski?
Hopefully, and I don't want to say obviously, but hopefully that the owner and the front office has studied this enough and have seen enough positive, I guess, from what they're doing that says that there is hope, there is a chance. The only thing I can say is that, and as I listened to on my way to work this week, I was listening to a sports writer down in Grand Rapids way, and he pointed out something that's pretty obvious. Look at Leyland's record and look like and granted, I'm not here to knock coaches and managers, etc. But when things are going well, the coach or the manager gets the credit. So therefore, when things aren't, what also has to happen? And I guess that's so you got to take a look at it. And what's his record after the All-Star break over the last few years?
It's terrible because the Tigers have never been 500 after the All-Star break, and it seems like this Tigers team...
That's a concern.
You hate to say this because this is taking so much credit away from the coach, but it seems like a lot of these Tigers teams go in runs. When the players are playing well, the Tigers are winning, and when the players aren't playing well, the Tigers are losing. I know that's how it is a lot in sports, but you'd like your coach to intervene at some times like he did back in the 06 season when they lost to the White Sox on a getaway day on a Thursday afternoon, and Leyland tore into them.
Yeah.
And the Tigers went on like a 25-4 run. The next, 30 games or whatever it was. That was what you wanted to see. That's what I hope that my big league manager can do, because it's tough. Because you never want to say, oh, I think he should get fired. It's always a weird thing with these managers because it's like you're rooting for someone to lose their job, which seems so harsh. And a lot of times you'll hear people, a lot of talking national heads go, well, I don't want to root for anyone to lose their job. At the same time, though, these guys get paid a lot of money.
Sure.
Millions of dollars. I think that comes with the territory. I have no problem saying that a manager should be fired. That's why you want you to lose your job and stuff like that, because the stakes are a lot different. You're not making millions of dollars.
No.
You're doing what you can with these high school kids. But when it gets to a professional level, when it gets to top D1 level, you make millions of dollars.
No question.
You're expected to perform every single year. And I think that's fair. And I think Leyland in the past 2 years has underperformed. 2006 can't save you anymore, Jim. I think it's time to go. Obviously, Mike Ilitch, the man with the money, the man with the checkbook, disagrees. He will be around for 2011. And again, it's a questionable move. And no, I think you think it's a questionable move as well.
Yeah, I'm okay with Dombrowski coming back next year. He's made some good moves in the organization, getting some players that could fill in for players like Brandon Inge, getting Johnny Peralta. So when Brandon Inge is gone after this next couple seasons, maybe after this season, we'll have him. But I just don't understand why he would bring back Jim Leyland, who hasn't been really performing as he should be this year as a manager.
No, guess who tore it up for the Whitecaps there Wednesday night? I turned on the television, the news, and
Mr. Brandon Inge.
Yes, he was. He tore it up. He tore it up at the Whitecaps.
That's single A.
Yeah, he tore it up.
I mean, he could be a franchise player in single A, but I don't think.
Did Carlos Guillen play last night?
I think Carlos Guillen's for the Whitecaps now, too, trying to come back. It's just this team. They had some young talent that came up, and again, this is a lot of rookies, too. All this can't fall on Jim Leyland. This is not a division
they had
championship
injuries. I mean, there is
team.
injuries. No,
but Jim Leyland has made just blatant bad decisions in the past couple of weeks.
The one last week that you were yelling
blatant bad decisions in the past couple of weeks. And boy, I hate to call myself Nostradamus, but I'm going to go ahead and say that I predicted the future.
Call yourself that.
I predicted the future last week.
Yes,
Because what did I say sitting right here? I said the Tigers will lose a game late because they don't have Valverde. On Saturday, they blew a 3 or 2-run lead in the ninth, losing because Phil Koch was in there, who's not a closer. What happened Sunday? They also don't have Koch or Valverde. It's just unbelievable. Robbie Weinhardt comes in and can't throw to first base. These are 2 games they lost, and I understand that they're like 9 games back right now. But, boy, it's a lot different feeling when you're 6 or 7 games back rather than 9 or 10 games back. It's a huge difference.
As I said, stick a fork in them.
And with trying to overcome 2 teams now, it seems almost impossible with the team they got right now, the way they're struggling. You talk about the injuries, you might as well call Brennan Bosch an injury, because whatever he was in the first half, he's not that in the second half.
Boy,
he might have had a home run yesterday, but he's still hitting around 100 since the All-Star break.
His first home run since the Atlanta series.
Which was a long time ago, because I can remember that series. And
it was in June.
A long time ago.
About the middle of June.
My biggest problem with Leyland, too, is just it's the Rod Marinelli syndrome, which I hate, which is when you hear a coach in the post-game conference, talk about, well, what's going to happen is going to happen. Well, you just got to, Marinelli was, you pound the rock. We keep doing the things in practice, and boy, we can't change what happens on Sunday. What's going to happen? We're just going to plug away and keep doing it. No. That's not what I want to hear.
No.
What I want to hear is you're going to change things because the way you've been doing things has resulted in a very, very, very poor performance on the field. So I want you to change things and not keep pounding the rock. Not keep filling in a lineup with Don Kelly batting second or third. Not keep putting Rayburn, who's hitting 200, in the 3 slot. Not keep putting Brennan Bosch in the top 5 of your lineup when he can't hit anymore. You can't keep doing this. Again. You can't keep plugging things in.
No, he's
Your job as a manager is to change things. That's the reason you're there. I can fill out the lineup card. Trust me. I've done it in video games for years. I know what a good lineup is.
You have the background.
Yeah. I have the background. These people are idiots.
A great coach / manager / leader has a pulse of what's going on with his team. Sometimes you got to rip them. Sometimes you got to take them in your arms and hug them. Sometimes you have to be in the middle. And you have a really solid point there, though, Kevin, as far as when things are going wrong. If you're just going to sit, like you said, Marinelli, we're just going to keep doing the same things over. I mean, I can remember years where we've did some drastic things just because something's not working. We need something to get a spark going. We need and again. The great ones can tell. They get a feel for their team, and they know when they need it and when they don't. And Rod Marinelli, that's a good example.
It's amazing.
But I think Leyland, I don't see Leyland. He doesn't seem any different.
It's amazing to me how these coaches, and I get it. I get Leyland's been around well before I was born when he was managing and winning titles.
Yeah,
I get that, not winning titles. He won 1 title that was bought for him by David Dombrowski in Florida. I get that, or Jeffrey Loria. I get that to a certain extent, that you're not going to change your whole coaching philosophy. You've been doing it for years.
No.
But it's ignorant to think that you shouldn't change anything. You shouldn't change and adapt anything, and I feel like that's what Jim's doing right now. I don't know if he's too old. I don't know if the season's got to him. I don't know if he really has a passion for it anymore, but boy, he better find it if he's going to be the manager next year, because it's ridiculous.
And I mean, every guy has their style, but I'll go back to, I remember back when Bo Schembechler was at Michigan, and if they lost on Saturday, those players did not want to go in, even walk in that meeting room on Sunday. They did not want to go through that practice the next week, because he absolutely beat the living daylights out of them, and so that it wouldn't happen again. And again, that's a football example, but in baseball, somewhere you got to find your way to do that. And some of the great managers, if you go down the great managers, I'm sure they did the same type of thing. Sometimes you got to shake things up. Sometimes you just got to, and like I said, Jim Leyland seems, we had a good pitch performance from so and so tonight, and then he seems like the same monotone, the same. There doesn't seem anything different. And when things aren't going right, you got to shake it up.
You can't have, like Kevin said, you can't be putting Don Kelly in there every day.
Don Kelly.
So even though he hit a home run, second of the year, I think, Ryan Rayburn hits a home run, but still, you can't be putting those guys in there. You can't count on people that are betting their weight when they're in the low 200s.
Yeah. Jenks threw him a moonball, though.
I mean,
you could have hit that one out.
I know Jim's old-fashioned, but does he think they can't waste lineup cards? I hate when I hear before the game, well, Magglio Ordonez was scratched when Magglio was healthy. Magglio was scratched today, so in the 3-hole today we have Don Kelly. because he erased Maglio and wrote in Don Kelly. Does he know you can take out another lineup card and fill out a new one where you actually have a batting order that makes sense instead of plugging holes in the top 4 things? And I get now it's almost moot because he has so many injuries. These lineups are always going to suck. You're always going to have guys who are hitting 200. But Jim was doing this in the beginning of the year, and it was so frustrating. And it gets to a point, I don't know if these coaches get such big heads because there's so much media attention, more so than a decade ago, around every single coach. But it's almost like they think, well, I'm a big league manager. I'm here because I do it my way. Why would I ever change my way? And it's so ridiculous because guess what? Bill Belichick can do that. He won titles. Bo Schembechler, he won so many games as a college football coach. I get it. Do that. But when you're Rod Marinelli and you're going 0-16 in your second year or third year as a head coach, maybe how you do it isn't going to work. And if you don't change it, guess what? You're going to be defensive line coach for the Chicago Bears in 2010.
And rightfully so. I guess he's what I hear. He's a great line coach.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
He's a great line coach
because he pounds the freaking rock. But not a head coach. And listen, and I know Jim, it's tough. I hate saying it too because I feel like you're taking too small of a sample size and judging Jim as a whole because he was so good in 06 and he motivated that team. But these things that just seem lazy. Yeah. I mean, it just seems lazy to me. And it just seems like he's doing it over and over again. But guess what, Tiger fans? He's going to be back for 2011. So let's hope things get a little bit better just for our sake of watching.
One move we haven't been talking about is having Gerald Laird playing against, I think, righties he plays against, and then Avila has to play bats against lefties. But why don't you... Avila is a way better batter than Gerald Laird.
I'm waiting for Avila to be a way better batter, but he's
better than Laird.
He's slightly better.
What's Laird's average?
Like 190, and Avila's hitting, 210?
216.
We have the worst catching duo.
But when they're catching, they're phenomenal catchers. They're really good.
Oh, young Noah.
And
what do they say in football? If you have 2 quarterbacks, how many do you have, Bart?
What's that?
If you have 2 quarterbacks in football, I got 2 quarterbacks. How many do you really have?
1.
Well, you have none.
Yeah.
You have none. If you're platooning your quarterbacks, you have none.
I didn't
and if you have 2 catchers for the Tigers, you have 0.
You're right.
I mean, I get what you're saying. No, there are good defensive catchers, and they do throw out runners, but at the same time, that's not getting production. I don't blame Jim for the catching situation. I blame Dave Dombrowski for the catching situation right now. And Lynn Henning, we love him. He's been on the show before, but he came out with an article this week saying he doesn't think Gerald Laird's going to be back in 2011.
I don't think he should.
God, I hope not. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get into some football talk. It's Mom's 2010 Sports with Sheena on 102.7 WMOM.